want to apologize in advance for my impending enthusiasm. I know you might not be used to me being enthusiastic about something, but I can't tell you how happy I am and enthusiastic I am that Gabriel Landeskog is playing tonight in the American Hockey League for the Eagles. They'll face off against the Henderson Silver Knights. And this, Zach Phillips, is going to be a wonderful day. Welcome to Friday, by the way. We started the week, Zach, with Little Berkey, and we're finishing up with Big Berkey, from Patrick to Brian. It's how to bookend Berkeys for the week. So get your questions in at the sheet at thenationnetwork.com or hit us up on the social meds, as the kids say. I don't think kids say that anymore.
I don't
social
think
media.
So.
No?
I don't know if they ever said that.
They never did, eh?
I don't know. I think that one might have been a swing and a miss on your behalf.
All right, back to the drawing board then. All right.
Yeah, try again.
We got some hot goss for the show today. The kids still say hot goss? No? Is that still a thing?
No.
No? Hot goss is not? No?
No. That's
things I learn on this show. Boy, okay. Close to the retirement home. Listen, you know who's not close to the retirement home is Gabriel Landeskog. Here's your transition right there. Gabriel Landeskog returns. Have I mentioned that he's my favorite hockey player in the NHL? And he perhaps is soon to be back in the NHL after a 3-year absence. Last time we saw him was holding the Stanley Cup. And like many of us, I thought, you know what? This isn't looking good, isn't sounding good. You know, this might be the end for Gabriel Landeskog. And we'll see what happens tonight. Like, who knows? But I thought to myself, you know, if you're going to go out, that's the way to do it, right? Like your closing scene is holding the Stanley Cup. Like if you're gonna go out, like that's a really great way to do it. And curtain as you're holding the Stanley Cup and the audience applauds. Like that's a great way to do it. I've had this thing for Gabriel Landeskog going back to junior when he played with the Kitchener Rangers. And there was, and I'm still trying to, oh, look at that picture of him in the Eagles jersey. Oh, Gabe Landeskog is back. Look at that, 92, bringing back the captain for the playoffs. Let's go. That's awesome. There was a game, he would have been a rookie then, Landeskog playing for the Kitchener Rangers against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. And one of the toughest players in the OHL at that point was Jake Muzzin. Jake Muzzin was tough. I still maintain the Maple Leafs haven't recovered from losing Jake Muzzin, but that's for another conversation for another day on the program. But Muzzin ran someone on the Rangers, and Landeskog, who was a rookie, went right at him. And I can recall, because Troy Smith would have been the coach, actually, of the Kitchener Rangers at that point. Or maybe he was an assistant. I think he was the head coach. I can't recall. Troy Smith was on the bench. And everybody on the bench, coaching staff, all of it were like, I don't know whether you want to be doing that, Gabe Landeskog. Like, pick your spots here. Let's... Yeah, you might want to learn a thing or two here about Jake Muzzin, and like Landeskog fed him, and like everybody on the bench was like, "Whoa, what do we have here? This combination of skill and leadership and toughness and fighting ability, fearless player. Oh man." Landeskog's awesome. Anyway, so I've always loved the guy. Yeah. One of my favorite players. The NHL is always better when Gabriel Landeskog is in it. And I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that things go okay here for Landeskog in the American Hockey League. And he can make his way back to the NHL just in time for the playoffs. You want to talk about a long play? A long cap circumvention play. Keep your player out 3 years. Take that, Vegas. Take that, Tampa. Yeah. That's how you do it. Take that, Mark Stone. Take that, Nikita Kucherov.
Hold my beer. You want to see LTIR?
Here's how you do. Here's how you do LTIR and sneak into the playoffs. Anyone can do a couple of months. Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
Landeskog, 3 years.
How about 3 years? Joe Sakic's handing it off. He's like, don't worry. He'll be back. He'll be back.
I'm just happy he's in. I'm just happy he's in. I'm just happy he's involved. Okay, let's get to what's on the show today. Daily Outlines presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Did I mention Gabe Landeskog is returning? With North America's #1 sports book. And coming up on the program today, Fridays are always special. And we got more feedback today, more questions today for our featured guest, Brian Burke, than I think we've ever had for Berkey. So we'll try to plow through as many as we can. And the good thing about it too is a lot of the questions and comments are pretty diverse and cover a wide range of areas of expertise for Brian Burke. So looking forward to that here coming up in a couple of moments. We will talk about Brandon Duhaime. And we will big up someone who predicted that it was going to be Brandon Duhaime, who dealt with Jalen Chatfield last night. Someone who mentioned that in our chat as we went off the air, I believe. We'll get to that coming up in a couple of moments. Demidov and the scene at Pearson Airport in Toronto yesterday. My take on it is that I think it was a wonderful thing to have hockey fans that are that passionate, and we'll get into that in a couple of moments. I know people look at those guys and say, like, you're insane. And we're going to talk about Harold Ballard because a really interesting video just popped up on Instagram, and I want to comment on it because the guy you're listening to, the guy you're maybe watching right now on YouTube, in his first day on the job at Park Lawn Cemetery in the West End of the city of Toronto, helped to bury and then took care of the plot. It was Section AA, right at the corner of Prince Edward and Bloor, took care of the plot of Harold Ballard. We'll get into that story coming up in a couple of moments. Lots to get to on today's show. Let me tee him up, although he really doesn't need any introduction. There are just some people in the industry that you don't have to set up with a bio or anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the program. You love him. You might not always agree with him, but you love him. He's Brian Burke, and he joins me once again. Berkey, how are you?
Good, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing very well. We got a lot of questions for you today. And we got a lot of different comments. But the one thing that I wanted to start with, this has been a difficult week for everybody in the hockey community. Earlier in this week, Greg Millen passed away, and then Ray Shero passed away yesterday. Do you have a thought on either/both, Berkey?
I knew both those guys. Tragic losses, way too soon for both of them. Very different guys, but very similar at the same time. With Millsy, he was the guy that I thought really called a great game. I met him first when he was playing in Hartford. Got to be friends with him over the years. I followed him ever since. And then, of course, as a broadcaster, you bump into him. Really, a guy that managed his words well. Wasn't verbose, wasn't over, didn't fun. He told me once, how many great plays do you really see in a game? And the answer is you see maybe one or two. But people will say use the word great in the broadcast 30 times. Millsy tried not to do that. He said it was a clever play or a sharp play or a smart play. Tried to manage the use of superlatives. Great sense of humor, very wry, dry sense of humor. Great guy, way too young. With Ray Shero, I called Ray. I had a childhood friend in Boston named Ray DiPietro, a real good college football player at UNH. And Ray said everything twice, so we call him Ray. So I called Ray Shero Ray. Ray and I were roommates in Sochi. JJ was in the other room. We had the two guys in one room and one guy in the other. It was JJ, the late, great Jim Johansson, and now Ray Shero and I. And they set the beds up about 3 feet apart. It was like we were at hockey school. So I sat for 2.5 weeks. I went to bed every night about 3 feet away from Ray Shero. Great sense of humor, highly intelligent guy, great bloodlines, famous father, wonderful man. Both those guys we missed.
Absolutely. Just as an aside with Ray, I'm always curious. Did you ever meet his dad? Did you ever meet Fred?
Freddie Shero spoke to me once during training camp. I scored 2 goals. I know you won't believe it, but I did. I scored 2 goals. And we were going to dinner at the Muddy Rudders, a place in Portland.
Yeah.
And out by the practice rink. I was in there with my roommate, Tommy Gorns. And Freddie Shero, late great Freddie Shero, came in with the late great Keith Allen. And Freddie said you could see him talking to Mr. Allen. He said, "Who's the redhead who scored the 2 goals?" And you saw Mr. Allen say to him, "It's Brian Burke, 10 feet away." So Freddie walks over to me, pats me on the arm, and goes, "Way to go, way to go, son. He forgot my name in the 10 feet it took to walk. But that was Freddie. Mel Bridgman told me Fred Shero didn't know his name for 2 years when he played for him. So the one time I met Freddie, he said hi to me a couple times during training camp. I was that great man. Ray Shero will be missed.
I mean, it's funny, I was talking on the show yesterday about Ray, and I didn't know him as well as you did. I talked to him a number of times, but like you guys were colleagues. You guys were both general managers. You guys were in that fraternity. But I remember the last conversation I had with him was about when he was 10 years old, and Jerry Meehan scored that goal against the Philadelphia Flyers. On that last game of the season, 1972, took the Flyers out. It was his dad's friend. It was the first time that hockey made him cry. Like, we're talking about like the first time that hockey breaks your hearts. And I just remember Ray talking about how, he was 10 years old and his mom had a cup of coffee and she dropped it. And he started to cry when that goal went in with like 4 seconds left. And it was another disastrous season for the Philadelphia Flyers. And the thing about Ray is, like, he always kind of made you laugh too. Like, every conversation that I remember I had with Ray, like, at some point, like, he could be very serious. He could be angry. Managers are under a lot of stress, as you well know. But there was always something in every conversation that made you laugh. Like, I'll always take that away from Ray Shero.
He would call you and he would talk for 10 minutes. You could get a cup of coffee, you get up, you could brush your hair, which I should probably do now. And you could brush your teeth. You could go take a break and a washroom break, come back, he'd still be gabbing away, make you laugh, tell stories, tell jokes. Very popular GM.
Really was. He'll be missed. Millsy will be missed as well. We should mention as well, Mark LaForest passed away most recently as well. Let me get your thoughts on Brandon Duhaime and Jalen Chatfield last night. So rewind last week. Jalen Chatfield has the fight with Connor McMichael of the Washington Capitals, spins McMichael around, trips him. McMichael lands on his back, almost hits his head on the ice. Really controversial. Nothing from the DOPS on this one, but I know the players on the Caps were miffed. And I think we were wondering, okay, so next time these two teams meet, who's going to go after Chatfield to even the score? Some would say, like, oh, that's Tom Wilson's. Maybe Ryan Leonard, the kid, wants to make a name for himself. And it's Brandon Duhaime who steps up early in the game and goes right at him off a draw. Chatfield obliges and give the win there clearly to Brandon Duhaime. You've been in situations like this as a manager before. I can remember the Brad May situation with Kim Johnston and then Derek Bugard, where there's a score that needs to be settled. Is there, like, would there be any conversation here?
Yes.
Or is that just, there would be, yeah?
Ordinarily, you'd say something in the warm-up. Just say, kid, I'm coming out to first shift. So you give him some warning. You don't want to jump him. Mm-hmm. It looked like he wasn't ready to fight anyway, but I'm sure Brandon Duhaime, he played at Providence. You know that.
Yep.
And he can fight. He's a tough kid. He did the right thing. It shouldn't be Tom Wilson answering that fight. It should be a middleweight, not a heavyweight. And Jalen Chatfield's perfectly willing to take the fight. Good for both of them. Move on.
Mm-hmm. Do you did you care to share the Brad May Derek Bugard story after the Kim Johnston incident so many years ago?
When Brad May, so he sucker punched Kim Johnston coming into the pile.
Yeah.
And I asked him afterwards, "What happened, Mayday? Why did you hit the kid?" He said he's coming in. I thought he was trying to join the fight, join the pile. So that didn't impress anyone, but I believe Brad May, because Brad May's an honorable guy. So now he's got to fight Bugard. We play him the next year. And I went to Brad and I said, "Brad, you don't have to take this fight." I said, "You can just tell him you're under orders. That's perfectly acceptable. You can say, I'm under orders, can't take the fight." And Mayday said, "Don't worry about me, Berkey." I said, "Well, get in close then. Don't take any big bombs." He said, "Do not worry about me." So they line up for the face-off, and he's a Boogie, the late, great Derek Bugard's on the other side. Boogie switches wings to get opposite Mayday. He says, "We're going to do this?" And Mayday said, "Yep." Until they dropped the gloves, and Mayday actually won the fight. He didn't hammer him, but no one hammered Boogie. But Mayday won the fight. So I had so much respect for Brad May anyway, but that just reinforced. He said, "I got to pay my own tab. No one else can pay it." Because George Farrell said, "I'll fight him." And I said, "No, you won't. Let Mayday answer the bell."
The big story this week. is actually a story that happened on Sunday afternoon at UBS, and that is Alexander Ovechkin officially breaking the Wayne Gretzky goal record. A couple of things. Did you have a thought on Ovechkin not wanting to go on the ice for the empty netter against Chicago? And then just your thoughts on the achievement itself, and where does that place him in the sort of pantheon of greats in the history of the NHL now that he has that record?
Well, he goes down as the greatest goal scorer ever, and that's no small thing. To take any record away from Wayne Gretzky, to me, says volumes right there. That speaks to itself. But the fact of the matter is, this guy's been a joy to watch. He's been a pleasure to watch. He sells tickets. He's a physical guy. He's a big, mean guy. He hits hard. He pancaked 2 guys the other night, for God's sake. In a game where he's just set the record, he still pancaked 2 guys. So I love the way he plays. I think he's got a lot of finesse, a lot of flash, a lot of skill. He scores goals all different ways: finesse goals, power goals, big body goals. It's been great for the game ever since he came in. So I'm really happy for him. I really like him personally very much as well.
I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on in the program too, Berkey. But your thoughts on Ivan Demidov, and maybe sort of, I always remind people, temper expectations for rookies, temper expectations for new kids coming in. I'm not sure if you saw some of the scenes at Pearson yesterday when Demidov landed and all the Montreal Canadiens fans were around, and the kid had his eyes open wide as he walked off the plane. Do you have a thought on, how should Montreal handle this phenomenon that is Ivan Demidov? And did you have a thought about all the people at Pearson converging to welcome him to Canada?
Well, I think it's very cool. It's reminiscent to me when Pavel Bure came to Canada. A lot of people, there's a big crowd at the embassy in Seattle. That's why I drove Pavel in. We drove across the border instead. But his first practice was at Britannia, one of the local rinks. For 2,000 people in the rink, shoulder to shoulder. They had to smug him out to get him out of the practice afterwards. So I think this kid's got a chance to be special. My advice would be let him get wet his feet slowly. Give him a shift with top guys. Protect him a little bit. But at some point, you have to turn loose. I remember Pavel Bure's first NHL game. He got in alone 5 times. He beat the defense and went in alone 5 times. Did not score against Winnipeg. Next night he scored, but he did not score that first game. But you could see the talent, and people are going nuts about him. So this kid's got a chance to be special. Break him in slowly, but then I think you're going to let him rip, because that's what he's going to do.
Let me ask you about Pavel Bure. It's interesting to bring up that name, because there's a couple of names that I've always felt through history here that we just don't mention enough. One of them is Peter Stastny, who, if you look at the 80s, Wayne Gretzky's number, as far as scoring goes, points, Wayne Gretzky's number 1. That's obvious. Number 2 is Peter Stastny, but we never talk about Peter Stastny. And I find, and maybe this is a byproduct of him having an injury-shortened career, that we don't talk enough about how great Pavel Bure was.
Yeah, I think that's partly because of the Russian thing, partly because he had a short career, partly because he was injured a lot, and partly because he was a little bit moody. He didn't talk to the media when he didn't feel like it. I didn't find him moody at all, but I think fans perceived him as moody. Pavel's a great guy. I enjoyed having him as a player, even though I had to move him. He was a great player, but I think you're right. I think he gets a short shrift on people talk about the most. I've said this before on the air. When people say to me, is Connor McDavid the fastest skater you've ever seen? I said, no. I know one guy who's just as fast. His name was Pavel.
I just remember how huge his legs were. Like, he had these legs that were insane.
From a standing start, he was like Eric Heiden legs. Standing start to full speed, 2 steps. Better than Connor. I think Connor's got a better top end, but I think Pavel was quicker to get there.
Okay, we got some questions as always. This one is in from Justin, and actually this is a question about your time as an agent. Questions for Berkey. In your time as an agent, which relationship was the most delicate? That of you and your individual clients, or that of you and your relationship with managers, scouts, etc.? In simpler terms, was it harder to navigate the internal or external relationships in the course of being an agent? Tougher to deal with your player or the GMs out there?
Well, the internal ones were easy because I had very strict rules on how I did things. Players did things my way or they got someone else. I would tell a guy to lose weight. I would tell a guy to go to the minors and keep his mouth shut. I was much more bossy with my players than he'd be allowed to be today.
Hmm.
So my keeping the players in line was never an issue for me because when I met with them, I'd say, "This is how it works. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to say yes. We'll get along fine. If you don't, hire someone else." I said, "I'm not mad. If you don't want me, I'm not mad. I had other players do that. If you don't want me, don't hire me. But don't bring me here and then argue with me." So that was easy. Getting along with the agents or the
Managers?
GMs, that was the harder part. Harry Sinnen hated my guts. We fought like cats and dogs. Glenn said I had a couple good battles, but people don't like new agents. They figure when you're a new guy, you should behave and keep your mouth shut, and that's not exactly Brian Burke's playbook. So
Oh, by the way, I started the show off today talking about Gabriel Landeskog. Now, Landeskog will suit up in the AHL for the Colorado Eagles. They're facing off against Henderson, Vegas's AHL affiliate. And Jake submits this question, Berkey. Brian, can you tell the Landeskog draft interview story?
yeah, I don't want to tell a tale out of school, but Gabe, I think, will forgive me. I saw Gabe when they played in Toronto a couple weeks ago. He came up in the press box, came over to me, and we talked. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. I admire him so much, and he knows I've said this publicly. His draft interview was one of the best interviews ever. Brad May, Trevor Linden, and this kid, Gabriel Landeskog. He left, and I said to Tree, "Why don't we just invite this kid in to sit in on the rest of the meetings?" Like I said, he'll be a gem as soon as he gets done playing. So he knows my admiration for him is very real, very profound. Came right over, had a good talk. It's been 3 years, and he said the hardest part for him, again, not telling tales out of school,
Yeah.
hardest part for him was just a new procedure. He said there's no one my doctor could call and say, "What about this? What about that?" So it's been from scratch.
Right.
This kid has worked his tail off. I can't believe he's almost there. I can't wait to see him play.
What was so good about the draft interview? I mean, you mentioned like the thing about that we all know about Landeskog is, and I remember him when he played with the Kitchener Rangers, like he was mature well beyond his years. Like
Well,
I was telling the story about when he came in and had a doozy with Jake Muzzin, who was playing with the Greyhounds at that point. But and that was like after a hit, and Landeskog went right at him, surprised Muzzin, but like real tough, but like recognized the moment, like all of it, like way mature, way beyond his like he would have been like 17 years old, I would imagine at that point, but way more mature than his birth certificate would betray.
well, perfect English, first of all. Most Swedes come over.
Yep.
They acquire good English, but not perfect. This kid picked up perfect English in 2 years. But by his draft year, he's speaking perfect English, not heavily accented English, perfect English. Second was his poise. Posture was good, made eye contact with everyone when he asked a question. So a guy over on the right side would ask the question, Gabriel would turn and face him and answer the question, which is what you do. Eye contact with the person you're speaking with. Then bring in the room every once in a while, look around. Like his poise, his maturity, his answers were so well thought out, not rehearsed. I was just blown away with this guy. I still am. Even just talking to him in the press box the other night, like I couldn't. I said, "Gabe, good luck, pal. If anyone deserves good luck, it's you. He deserves to win another cup."
I think everyone's cheering for him. Okay, Martian submits this one. Can you ask Berkey about the Battle of Ontario and the time that he and Brian Murray had a discussion about Nazem Kadri at the draft when he told Murray he was taking him? We've all seen the video, Berkey.
Yeah, I felt badly about that video for years. I still do because I thought I was disrespectful to Brian Murray. I would never do that. I respected Brian Murray. I admired Brian Murray, and until the day he passed away, that bothered me because I looked like I was being dismissive. I wasn't. I was trying to get up to the table, and Brian Murray came over to me and said, "Would you switch 7 and 8 or 8 and 9?" And I said, "Well, who are you taking?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, we're taking him." I walked away. It looked bad, even though I apologized to Brian right afterwards. Once I realized it looked bad, he said, "What are you kidding?" He said, "I didn't take any offense." So he wasn't offended by it, but I was. I felt terrible about it. So I apologized to him about 7 or 8 times after that happened. So that was a side of me I didn't like. It wasn't done disrespectfully. It just looked bad.
How often would that happen, that you get sort of stopped on your way up to the podium?
That's the only time it ever happened with me.
but I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times. Hold on before stop the wedding.
Usually before someone's on the phone, so your call, your draft pick takes place. So say you're picking eight.
Yeah.
The eighth pick is announced, and they come to you and they ask for your pick. You submit it, they vet it, and then so you have time. Because that's when someone will call you, not when they grab you going up. That was unusual. It never happened before. It never happened since.
So Big Willie Style submits something I don't think I've ever asked you. This is an interesting one. Best day of the week, Civilian Friday. I think we should start calling this Civilian Friday. Here we go. I got a question for Berkey. What was your hardest trade to make?
Brian McCabe. Trading Brian McCabe in a first to get the Twins. I had to do it.
Yeah.
I hung on for 3 days trying to throw in other names at him. Bob Murray was the gym in Chicago. And he said, look, I'm not doing this. I know what you're trying to do. I'll help you do it, but you got to put McCabe in the deal. I loved Brian McCabe as a player. Yeah. He was an ideal player for me. He was smart. He was tough. He was a great teammate. I liked his wife. Like on our team.
Roberta, wonderful person. Yeah, everyone, teacher in Long Island. Great person.
She fit in great with all the other ones. Everyone loved him. Everyone loved her. And I was like, can't we do anyone? But it would have had to have been Joel or McCabe, and I wouldn't trade Joel, so I had to put McCabe in. And I told him afterwards, I said, I'm sick to my stomach doing this Gaber. Still, every time I see him, I hug him and apologize to him.
Still to this day, he's got a Stanley Cup ring now, too.
Yeah.
The Panthers.
Yeah, great. That was tough. That was hard. Trading players. I remember when we traded Richie Sutter to St. Louis. Pat was desolate after that. He was dead. He was so despondent after that trade. He was down. He couldn't hardly talk. He said, I'm trying to find 10 more guys like Richie Sutter. I just traded him. Pat couldn't talk for about half hour after that trade. He was sick to his stomach. So I know it gets different people differently, but I've traded some guys that didn't want to trade, but Brian McCabe was the hardest.
JWBS submits this one. With all the recent additions from overseas and the legwork that comes along with getting them over to North America, does Berkey have any good stories of trying to bring over a player from overseas? Well, he just mentioned Pavel Bure a second ago, but I mean, it's a lot different now. I mean, when you guys were doing it, it was like in the back of a trunk and forged passports and dodging bullets and secret agents. Like it was a wild world then, Berkey.
Well, when Lincoln and Buble come over, that was a little different. That was before me, though, and they had armed guards chasing them and crossing the border in the dead of night, and money belts and all kinds of stuff. So I was after that, thankfully. But no, I don't have any good stories about cloak and dagger stuff getting guys out.
Was it tough with Bure?
No, I don't know how. Ron Salsa was the agent. He got him out. I have no idea how he did. He called me. He said, hey, you want to talk to Pavel? Put Pavel on the phone. I said, all right, Ron, I give up. How'd you get him here? He said, we're not going to talk about that. Ron Salsa was a really good guy. He was Pavel's agent. He got him out. And I said to Pat, I better get down there and start talking to this kid and find out what we're going to do. So I flew out the next day.
That's awesome. So there's some. This is kind of a longer one, but this goes back to the 2007 playoffs. What do you recall from the Derek Boogaard, Teemu Selanne warm-up controversy, where there was a puck shot into your zone? You remember this one, Breaker? There's a puck shot into your zone, and did it hit Teemu or it almost hit Teemu? It hit him in the head, maybe? Like. Vague recollections of this, but I do remember something about this one.
I don't think it hit him. I think it came very close, but it wasn't fired at him. It was kind of flipped at him. It would have cut him. But it wouldn't have put him out of the game or anything. It was stupid. I don't know if it was Boogaard or not. I don't think Derek Boogaard would have done that. Someone else did. We couldn't discern. We looked at the film because the warm-ups are film, believe it or not. We looked at the film, couldn't see a thing. But yeah, someone shot a puck at him. That's like Alfie shooting the puck at Scotty Niedermayer in the playoffs. That was intentional. But I don't think this was certainly intentional, but I don't think anyone, it was just kind of stupid.
Yeah. You know, we were just having Zach, my producer, and I were just having this conversation the other day about the Western Hockey League in the '70s, and Kelly Rudy told me that when he was playing for Medicine Hat, the New Westminster Bruins with legendary coach Ernie Punch McLean had like a real tough team, and Boris Fistrick, you probably know his son, and maybe you know Boris too, or knew Boris,
I knew
was
of
like
him, yeah.
yeah, like the king of the jungle, right? Super tough. And what Kelly would tell me was during warm up, guys from New West, most specifically Boris, would skate into Medicine Hat zone and take shots at the Medicine Hat Tigers goaltender, and then Boris occasionally would lift the net off the moorings and push it to center ice during warm up
Yeah.
and stand beside the net and say,
Yeah.
"Come do something about this if you want."
Yep, that's when the Western Hockey League went to separate warm-ups. Home team would warm up, they blow the whistle, they clear the ice, and the visiting team would come on, or vice versa.
They used to do that.
Had separate warm-ups, absolutely. They used to
So-
take the net away. They turn
Yeah.
the net. They turn the net the wrong way. They fire pucks to guys. They start fights in the warm-up. Now they went to 2 warm-ups and all 4 officials on the ice watching. It was crazy. It was out of their minds back then. But
Yeah.
that's how it was.
It's funny too. That was like that era. There were, and like I just mentioned Ernie Punch McLean a couple of seconds ago, legendary coach from the New Westminster Bruins. But there were others like Doug Sauter. There was Seattle coach Jack Sangster. They used to
Yeah.
call his team Sangsters Gangsters. Like the Western League, once upon a time. I know it's still a tough league, but like once upon a time, like Bricky, just to be blunt, like that was crazy league, man. Like the Western League was
Yeah.
nuts.
I was out of control. I was at a game in Tri-City where in Seattle against Tri-City, and a fight broke out. And players started swinging their sticks at fans, who took the sticks away and started clubbing fans with them.
That's online.
Both teams went over the glass. It was
Yes.
nuts. I was at the game.
You were at that one, so that game's online. Like it's interesting too because there's one scene, and it's Olaf Kolzig, the goaltender, who's swinging his. It's the wildest thing. Brian Sakic, I think, would have been involved in that too, who's swinging his stick at fans, like his goalie stick. Like it is some of the Zach. If you can find it, maybe we'll fire this up. And if we can get Stu Barnes, I think, was involved in that one too. Like you were at that game, Berkey. That's
Rick
one of the most
Kozubak
notorious
was the-
games.
Yeah,
What's that?
Rick Kozubak was the coach.
Yeah, that was that was an like it's games like that where I'm sure the players go back in the room and they say to themselves, "Are we going to get arrested? We're just like swinging sticks at fans."
It's like the Hansons. The cops come to the door. The Hansons.
Hansons.
Yeah, no,
You get to make one phone call. Oh, call the pizza man.
It's not a great memory for me, but I'm glad the game has evolved away from that. But it was crazy back then.
It really was. Here's one from Ryan Pike, who works with us here at the Nation Network covering the Calgary Flames. I'm sure Brian's been asked this before, but with it being Frozen Four season, does he think a large tournament like the NCAA does would work for junior hockey? Travel would be an issue for one. Expenses would be another.
And the home gates are so important to those teams.
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. Going to a neutral site for the Frozen Four. They go to the 4 regional sites, and then they go to the Frozen Four. It's a great tournament. It's a lot of fun. But single elimination is so tough. Like David Carl got knocked out in double OT. And good for Brett Furschweiler. He's a good coach at Western. Good for him.
Yes.
But losing a single elimination game after playing all year, that's tough, boy. It's hard math.
It is. You mentioned Pat Furschweiler a couple of seconds ago. When the Philly job, when John Tortorella was fired, that was one of the first names that I thought of. Was Pat Furschweiler? He used to play Western Mich with Jonesy, and he was on the bench as an assistant with Detroit. His name's out there. I think we wonder about Jay Pandolfo with BU, even though his kid was just named to the national program and has a chance to probably coach him in a couple of years as well. But like there's coaches in NCAA right now that at least it feels like they're right there. You mentioned David Carl. There's another one. Like it seems like there's a handful there that are right on the cusp of turning pro and coaching in the NHL. Does it feel that way to you?
Yes, I think Pat's going to get a shot. I think David Carl's going to get a shot. I think Just there's going to be more opportunities. Expansion is coming. You know my view on that, but it's coming. We're going to be at
Yeah.
36 teams before long, in my view.
Can the quality of player accommodate expansion becomes one of the questions, though. Where are you at on that issue?
I don't think that's the issue. I think these players we're getting are better than they ever have been. I think there's plenty of players as long as you do 2 teams and 2 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Let's phased in over 4 to 6 years. That's not an issue for me. I really don't believe it is. The number of games and they have to change the schedule if you're going to keep expanding, in my view. Every team can't play in every building every year. So that's a good thing. In my view, I'd like to get rid of that anyhow. So if we're going to expand, let's take advantage of that and do that.
From Carl T, does Berkey have any great Mike Peca or Rick DiPietro stories?
Mike Peca I didn't have. He was after me. He missed me. I like Mike Peca. I've talked to him a few times. I really admired him as a player. Rick DiPietro, my favorite Rick DiPietro story is Donnie Waddell called me. The World Championships were going on in Germany. So one pool was in Cologne, one pool was in Hanover. I was in Hanover. I actually borrowed Wayne Gretzky's car to drive to the tournament. So I went and someone said, you got to get over here in time to watch the warm-up. I'm like, well, I always watch the warm-up, but why? And Donnie Waddell said, you got to get here to watch the warm-up. So I got there early. So what's so important about the warm-up? They shot Team USA. They told Rick DiPietro they didn't want him to handle a puck. He handled every puck. So they started shooting at his head in the warm-up. Guys were going right by his ears. It was unbelievable to watch. He said, you're not going to believe this. Watch. I can't believe no one fought him, or I can't believe DiPietro didn't break his stick on someone. They shot by his head the whole warm-up. Never seen anything like it in my life. Yeah.
You know, when I think of Rick DiPietro, first of all, I remember seeing him in his draft year, and I remember thinking to myself, like, this guy looks like a bodybuilder. Like he was physically, like I'm used
Great
to seeing
athlete.
like the great athlete, but like, did he not look like a bodybuilder to you, Berkey? Like he was massive, and like it wasn't just like thick, but he was like muscle on muscle.
Yeah, Mike Ruzzoni told me he was one of the best baseball prospects he'd ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, there was a time with the Islanders. This would have been, I think, when Garth Snow was. Garth Snow would have been the manager, and Chris Botta was the head of communications for the New York Islanders, and they were trying to, as you managers like to do, Berkey, lie about an injury. And Rick DiPietro had many injuries, and they didn't want to disclose what it was publicly. And I wish I still had a copy of the press release because I would frame it. It's one of my favorite press releases from a team ever, from the great Chris Botta. He said, Rick DiPietro out, I don't know, 4 to 6, 2 to 4, I don't know what it was. And the reason they gave was, it was brilliant, general body soreness. As a way to keep things as vague, general body soreness. I'm like, that's everybody in the NHL, Chris. I called him up. I'm like, first of all, that's a Picasso press release. Second of all, you just described everyone in the league.
Well, it wasn't even Lou. You can't blame Lou. That wasn't his era.
No, that was Garth.
Like
No, and Chris Craig. It does sound like Lou. I'm giving you nothing. You're getting 2 things, nothing and like it. I'm Lou Lamoriello. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get this one. This one, I don't know where we're going to go with this one, but this from Puck Guy 14, a 2-parter. How much influence did Berkey have for the Sharks coming into existence? Also, what would Berkey do with the Sharks rebuild? Do you have anything to do with the Sharks?
Yeah, but I got a lot of credit for something that was really Pat Quinn. I've tried to deflect this a number of times, but what happened was we heard San Jose was looking at getting a team. And Pat called me and said, you get down there and find out who's in charge and help. We want to add a team on the West Coast. We'll move heaven and earth to help them. So I call up Dean Monroe, who ended up being the mayor of San Jose, but at that point, to the governor's right-hand man or something, really good guy. I called him and said, can we be helpful in any way? He said, yeah, we got a city council meeting coming up. So I flew to San Jose. I didn't even know where it was. Flew to San Francisco, drove to San Jose, went to the meeting. They were talking about building a 12,000-seat arena. We said, no, it's got to be 15. They bumped it up. They showed me the site of the arena. So we were generally helpful, but we didn't have any influence. I think we were helpful because of Pat, not because of me. So the answer to your question is I had very little to do with it. whatever credit is owed to this Vancouver Canucks, because we were helpful.
Mhm.
I give that credit to Pat Quinn. He's the one who called me and said, "Look, you got to help here."
And that was because you guys wanted more teams on the West Coast.
West Coast, yeah.
That was
Yep,
more West Coast hockey.
Yep.
A couple of things. Speaking of West Coast hockey, the Vancouver Canucks officially eliminated from playoff contention this week. I mean, last season, everything went perfectly. People were up for individual awards. The team stayed healthy. Players had career years. Everything worked. This year was the opposites. Do you have a thought on what just happened this season with the Vancouver Canucks?
Well, I think it's Murphy's Law. I think you have years like that. Demko gets hurt, you get all the drama, and then they trade this guy and they keep this guy. That guy gets hurt. So I think everything that's Murphy's Law, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Teams have years like that. The key's going to be how they bounce back and what ownership's response is. If there's major changes, which I don't think they need to make, I think they have good people in charge. But we'll see. And there's rumors about teams being sold too, so who knows what happens next.
It's never a dull moment in Vancouver. Berkey, like, listen, you've worked in hot spots. Like, you've worked in Toronto, you've worked in Calgary. You've never shied away from being in the middle of markets that are always hot. Give us a sense of, for those that aren't familiar with Vancouver. I mean, you know it well. Like, when it's hot in Vancouver, it's real hot, and there's no off season. You have a thought on Vancouver?
Yeah, the social media. Most of the social media that became harmful and difficult to deal with evolved after I left. So when I was there, it was still a traditional market, still a very positive hockey market. It still is. Majority of fans in Vancouver love their Canucks. They want them to do well. They don't like the panic-stricken mobs and yelling. But there's a lunatic fringe. There's a social media fringe in Vancouver that dictates a lot of the coverage, and they scream and yell about everything. They find negatives where they don't exist. I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that, but I don't feel Jimmy Rutherford and Patrick Allvin having to deal with it. I don't envy them because it's nonstop there. They find something negative. If they had a parade after they won the Stanley Cup, it would be ugly cars and parade. That would be the headline.
So there are. Let me conclude on this one. I'm guessing you like Kiefer Sherwood, first of all. Like, he seems like a Brian Burke kind of guy.
Yep.
So Kiefer Sherwood, let me get this out in front of me here so I have this specifically. He's one goal away from the 20-goal, 300 hits plateau. It's only happened 4 times previous with 3 players. Twice with Dustin Brown, once with Brady Tkachuk, and once with, and this is the one that will trip everybody up, Tanner Jeannot. Give us your thoughts. Let's conclude on this one. Conclude on a positive here. I'm sure Anaheim wishes they could have him back. I'm sure Nashville wishes they could have. Vancouver's got him. Do you have a thought or two as we conclude here on Kiefer Sherwood?
Yeah, anyone who leads the league in hits. Look at Cal Clutterbuck, all those years. It's very subjective what it constitutes a hit and what does not constitute a hit.
Yep.
So I will say I saw some of the hits that were put up. This kid's a tough kid. He's legit. But they're putting up a lot of hits that are borderline for me. So take it with a grain of salt. I hope he hits a 20-goal club and 300 hit mark. He's legit 300, but maybe 30 or 40 of those might be soft hits. You shouldn't get a hit for swearing at a guy. You shouldn't get a hit for spitting at a guy. And that's what I think happened on the island a couple of years.
You would just look mean at someone, growl at someone, and your name was
just call him a multisyllabic name.
Yeah, and your name was, and if there was a Martin on the name bar or a Cizikas or a Clutterbuck, you were getting 2 boxes checked for hits when you did that.
I remember, honestly, God, we played a game on the island, and we got the sheet afterwards, and I had Matthias Solon down for 6 hits. We had him down for 6 hits. The Islanders put down 2. So there's a discrepancy between what's recorded and what's real. Yeah. Trust me. The league has to work on that.
It's funny. I was telling the story earlier this week of Dan McGillis. Like, when he was with Edmonton, Glenn Sather wanted to move him to the Philadelphia Flyers. Yanni Niinema would have gone the other way, and Slats just bluntly said to the scorer, like, "Look, fluff up the numbers on the hits." And this is before everyone's watching every single game every night, and all of a sudden, Dan McGillis is looking like a killer. Dan McGillis was a really good defenseman, wasn't shy, but it wasn't as if he was, clocking 12 hits a game, but Slats made sure the Philly thought they were getting that guy.
I was at a game in Boston Garden, the old Boston Garden.
Yeah.
Sitting with Nate Greenberg, the PR guy. Great Nate. And the phone rings. They're getting outplayed badly. The shots are like 8-1. The Bruins have one shot on net. Phone rings and Nate goes, yeah, okay. Hang up. I said, what's that about? He said, Harry says, get some shots up there for us.
That's awesome. Berkey will close on that one. You have a good rest of your day, rest of your week, and we'll catch up in 7 days, pal.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. See you guys.
There he is. Brian Burke, Civilian Friday here. Always good catching up with Brian. We started, Zach, with Junior, and we finished up with Senior. Anything jump out there from our conversation with Brian Burke for you? You're smiling.
The last story is pretty incredible. Get the shots up.
Get some shots. Well, you know who would go crazy for that and would like yell and scream at the scorers for it? And he told me this. Like, we talk about this on the air. Doug McLean. When his team had like a bagel, like start the game off and like, shots are 12-0. And he would just like start screaming to the bench, screaming to the scorers, like, get that 0 off now.
Just put one. Something. Help us, please.
Yeah.
Berkey's great. That's a great way to start and finish the week. We do have to have Doug back on. It's been a little bit since we had him.
Yeah. We gotta get him back. He can tell the shot story.
Yes.
You know my favorite shot. Remember
Told the cannon last time.
You know what my favorite shot joke is? I do have a shot joke.
What?
I got 99 problems, but the shot's 8-1. No.
No.
I got 99 problems, but the shot's 8-1. No, it's not good. I'm trying, man. I'm trying out my new material here. It's hip. Kids like it. No. Tough crowd here, man. It figures the weekend. You're going to use it this weekend. You're going to go out this weekend and get buckled and go, hey, boys,
Right.
I got 99 problems, but the shot's 8-1. Or you can start looking at scores like, oh, the shot's 8-1. I'm going to take a picture of that and tweet it out. I got 99 problems, but the shots, and then throw out the screen cap. No?
No, it's
You're
tough.
never that. You're never that. Boy.
I knew what the joke was, Jeff. I knew what the joke was when you said it.
But the thing I'm trying to do here is I figure I'm at an age in my life where if I just keep saying it over and over again, it'll get funnier. No? Not working?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I will say I am going to the Leafs Habs game tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
If that is the shots, there will be a tweet coming out. Yes.
Do it, please. Grab the picture if the shot's 8-1. Anybody out there, just tweet it to me. People tweet me about Sprong all the time. Tweet me my favorite shot count, 8-1. With 99 problems. But the shot's 8-1. It's my little hockey joke. Give me like one. Like, come on, man. I gotta humor myself here with a little hockey joke.
You've had better.
You
gotta keep you honest.
Kids. Time now, everybody. The Crispy Inbox, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer. Check this out.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
You know, it's like because there's like 8 shots, like it's a Jay-Z song. It's like a play on.
Yeah, I know.
It's an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands, folks. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken and veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake air fry, and recrisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the description and stay tuned for a chance to win a free Ninja Crispy for one of our lucky fans. What's the email you got for your 8-1 boy?
I'm reading the chat.
How's chat?
Roasting you
Hang
for
on,
that.
hang on.
Roasting you for
What am I getting roasted for, man? Roshan
Weird.
just killing me.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the email. Hey, Jeff and Zach Phillips in brackets, if that's really your name.
Hang on, that's
Very
not
clever.
a grandpa joke. What? I'm getting killed in the chat. This is brutal.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Let's get to the email then. Crispy inbox. All right.
Hey, Jeff and Zach Phillips, if that's really your name. I recently heard an interview with the completely underrated Mike Richards talking about Ovi breaking the goal record. He mentioned what's almost more impressive is that he's closing in on the NHL all-time hit record as well, being less than 300 hits away from Cal Clutterbuck's current record. Do you think he gets this one done? And if so, how does it add to his legacy? Side note, what hasn't Mike Richards won? What a guy.
It's true. I know. Yeah.
From FanDuel shows there is a good chance Jeff has an obscure story from his Kitchener Rangers days. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Zeke.
I don't know. Obscure story. First of all, like the hits record, like that's the thing about, like in order to get all those goals, you got to play a lot of games. And the thing about Ovi is, one of the things that I think has impressed a lot of people is just how healthy he stayed. I know he had the broken leg this year, but like, I don't know, like did he go to Lourdes to heal up in holy water and come back like stronger than ever? Like, holy smokes. I thought the Swedes were the quick healers. Look at this Russian go. To me, the story of longevity and staying away from like the massive injury has been a big story. And he doesn't play a shy game, right? Like, who was it that he put through the glass? No, he didn't put through the glass. His first shift in his first game. I remember watching. It was Washington against Columbus, and he just was it David Vaborny? It was someone that he just like destroyed behind the Columbus net. And I remember thinking to myself, like, holy smokes, this guy's hitting like a freight train. Still, his best hit was at the Olympics against Yager, by the way. That one was a mass. That one was awesome. I think it's just like a side dish, just like he's a guy that scored a ton of goals and he puts himself and everybody else near him in harm's way. So I think it kind of adds to it. I think it just kind of makes it cooler that here's a guy that plays a really tough power forward kind of game, and he's avoided the big injury. He really has. Are injuries a matter of luck? Some say yes. Discuss. As for Mike Richards, one of my favorite stories about Mike Richards, I remember the World Junior team, the tournament where like everybody should have been playing in the NHL, 2005 in Grand Forks. Probably, Zach, the best junior team ever assemble. Like, that team went through everybody. It was a murderer's row of future Hall of Famers. And mainly it was because those guys should have been playing in the NHL. But because there was a lockout, they all had to go back. So I remember watching the tournament, and then it was a Friday night game in London. There's no NHL game, so I'm just like, it's kind of a luxury because I'm going to like a ton of junior hockey games that year. And that was the year that London had their big run where they didn't lose at all. Great team, Corey Perry on the team, Rob Schremp, Danny Savret, like just a Brandon Prust, like really, really good team. Adam Dennis, Gerard Coleman, and the goaltenders, really, really good squad. I remember the first game back from the World Juniors, Kitchener was in London. I'm like, hot dog, this is going to be a good game. So I'm doing the Leafs lunch show with Bill Waters. I get off the air at 2 o'clock and I hop in the Batmobile and I'm driving to London. I'm just like, this is Merrick Party of One solo album. I'm going to watch junior hockey with me and Jesus. We're going together, just the two of us. And we're going to watch hockey. And I remember I was like, oh yeah, it's Corey Perry and Mike Richards, teammates, gold medal, blah, blah. And because it's Kitchener and London, it's a pretty rough game. And there's a scrum at center ice. And who peels off to fight at center ice? Corey Perry, and Mike Richards. And I think it was like 4 or 5 rows up at what was then called Budweiser Gardens. I think it was called, or was it John Labatt Center then? Might have been John Labatt Center. And I just remember it because, and you can see it online, as those two peeled off, they're laughing. They're like, because like 5 minutes ago, they just had like gold medals around their neck and they're singing "Oh Canada." Something similar happened in the Western Hockey League too. But I just remember like watching these two idiots, because like they're just teammates a second ago, punching each other in the face, like honestly, Zach, and laughing. You can see it online. Like the fight's out there. Like I remember watching it. Like I'm hearing them. Like it's like they're little boys giggling as they're like cracking each other's skulls and helmets, just laughing and loving this dumb hockey life of yesterday. We were on top of the world, and we were winning the gold medal in Grand Forks at Ralph Engelstad Arena, and now here we are at the John Labatt Center, throwing coconuts off the side of each other's heads. That's my Mike Richards story.
That's a
fun
good
game
one
too. London was great that year. That was one of the best junior teams I ever saw too. That was great. That's great.
Who else would have been on that London team, by the way? Like, because I've been to Budweiser a few times, and the people that they have up there is pretty crazy. And I remember there was a bunch on that team specifically, right?
So I went down a few of them. So this is the 04-05 team. So on that squad, Dave Boland was on that team. Yeah. Dan Fritchie was on that team. God, he was good. Mark Mathot was on that team. Let's see. Yeah, I mentioned Shrimp. Yeah. So Gerard Coleman, Adam Dennis, they would have brought in from Guelph at the trade deadline. Dylan Hunter, who was a really, really good junior player. He would have been born. He was Dale's kid, so he would have been born when Dale played with the Nordiques, because he's from Quebec. Brian Rodney was a really underrated. He was an overager that year. Defenseman for the London Knights. Like that was an awesome team. Brandon Prust was a really, really good player. That was an awesome team. Like they just did not lose. Can't remember what their record. I think like one of the best records ever in the history of the CHL. And they cruised all the way. They won the Memorial Cup that year, and they beat Sidney Crosby's Rimouski Oceanic.
Yep.
And I don't know that. Just as a quick aside, did anyone from that Oceanic team other than Crosby play in the NHL? This is what our show has become, just us. So Marc-Antoine Pouliot played in the NHL, so I'm wrong. But I thought Mario Scalzo was going to play in the NHL. Nope. Jeffy was wrong about that one. Danny Roussin. Oh, yeah. Danny Stewart on that team. No, Cedric Desjardins.
Okay.
The goaltender. Played a handful of games. So, yeah, Pouliot and Desjardins. Okay, so there were a couple. And then that Crosby guy. It's going to the Hall of Fame.
That Crosby guy, yeah.
And Corey Perry.
It's been fun.
It's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
As well.
Yes.
What else we got here on the program today? We wrap up a Friday.
Let's quickly shout out Duhaime and the fight. You talked about that with Berkey, but we had
yes.
out. So
yeah, okay,
I just want to give credit. This one came. So basically, after the show finishes, it goes and you can watch back the show. Which people, if they miss it or whatever, you can go watch on YouTube there. But yesterday, I go and look, and I see a comment there shortly after the show, maybe like 20, 30 minutes after the show. And it says, this is from ZD Baseball, Duhaime is going to fight Chatfield. And I just started laughing because, Jeff, you and I had talked about who fights him, who steps up, who's the person in this instance. I had not thought about Duhaime, and I read it, and I was like, interesting. Like, night goes on, and then I see Duhaime fights Chatfield. I'm like,
Duhaime, holy
someone
smokes,
said that
man.
already.
He was firing rights, and those rights were coming from the cellar. Like, those were, with ill intent.
Yeah.
That was really something. That was excellent.
Imagine what his hand must have felt like after, Jeff, Duhaime.
I think about that all the time with fights now, with cracking on the side of helmets. Oh yeah, if you're
Yeah.
watching us on YouTube, you can say Duhaime, and Chatfield knows. Like Chatfield, just like, okay, let's just get this over with. Like Duhaime was
Feeling
cracking him
5,
on the side of his
6,
head.
7,
Like, oh,
8.
those are
9.
powerful punches.
Like,
Jeez.
Bombs to the side of his head, and he's wearing a helmet.
Can I tell you, Brian Burke told that Brad May story about the fight with Derek Bugard after he sucker punched Kim Janssen. So that would have been in the Anaheim, Minnesota series. And I remember Mayday hit it with a glove on, punched him in the back of the head, concussed him. It was a big flashpoint moment in that series. And so the first game next year they're playing, the first time they met Minnesota, Anaheim did, everyone knew okay, Mayday's going to fight Bugard. And I remember Brad told me that Bugard toyed with him all game long. Like, when you have a situation like that, like just what Chatfield went through, it's first chance, get it over with. Just get it, you know it's coming, just get it over with. And what Mayday told me was that he lined up with Bugard the first time, and so Mayday's like, okay, we're going to do this, and Derek was like, nope. No, we're not doing this yet. Then he lined up with him again, like, come on, let's do this. Nope. And he said this went on like 3 or 4, maybe 5 times during the game. And Mayday said he was like, by the end, he's just like, God, come on, like, just because part of it is just like mentally you're thinking to yourself, like, let's just get this over with. Like, I don't want to fight Derek Bugard, but here we go. And he said, I think he said it wasn't until like the 3rd period, and he was lined up with Bugard, and Bugard just said, now! And then it started. But like the whole game, Bugard was just toying with him, like, no, not yet. No, we're not. It's coming, Mayday. It's coming, but not now. It's coming. Just so you know, just like, he's like, oh man, just like fucked with my head. He's like the whole game long, it's just messing around with me the whole time.
I can imagine that's a
that.
scary guy to be
Just
doing
knowing
that,
that,
the
like,
entire time.
at some, like, you just want to get it over with. Like, okay, like, I just gotta take my medicine. Just give me the spoon. Let me just take it. And Bugard's like, no, not yet.
You're gonna wait. You're gonna be tortured tonight. Yeah.
it's-
I've never asked Rosie if he had those moments. Like, I've heard so many stories, I'm sure you have too, of the guys going to bed, thinking about the fight the next day, trying to take a pregame nap, thinking about
I would
that. I've never asked
I would
Rosie.
guarantee you. I would guarantee you that he's had those sleepless nights. Because I'm of the belief that I don't think that anyone loves it. Like, I've only met and known one person who loved doing that job. And that was Tony Twist, who loved everything about it. I think Tony, when he retired, he won that lawsuit from McFarlane Toys. I think he bought a nightclub with part of the proceeds and bounced.
His own nightclub.
Worked the door.
He's like, there's
Just so
a
we could,
decent
like-
chance I get in a fight here.
Yeah. And it's probably the guy
Might
that's
as well.
buckled, so advantage me.
So. Yeah, exactly.
Someone told me that story. I'm going to pull the Doug McLean on this one. Not saying it's the truth. I'm just saying what I heard. But, like,
Yeah.
he was like the one guy that I've ever met who I can honestly say that guy loved doing it. I don't know that other guys loved everything about it. It is such a, it just messes, got him right in the mind. Just such a way, just like really mess you up mentally. Just thinking about that or going like, oh God, I got to fight this farm animal tomorrow. What's my life going to be like? I'm sure Rosie had those nights. For sure. He must have. He must have.
Yeah.
And maybe he cat and mouse the guy too. I don't know. Yeah, we're doing this, but not now. We're just gonna
Rosie
take our
had some
time with
pretty
this one.
unreal fights. I
really
went and
did,
did
too.
my
He was tough, man.
due diligence and looked back through. He had some hilts. And he also got called one of the funniest things I've ever heard that he is still not happy about to this day.
He got
He
called?
fought Milan Lucic, on a broadcast. Jack Edwards called him a career hatchet man. And, oh yeah. He went to fight Lucic, and then he said we still joke with him about it, but he called him a career hatchet man and said something along the lines of like, this is not the trade you want. Milan Lucic has 30 goals this year. Jay Rosehill might not score 30 in his career. It's like, dude, Come on.
The thing about I don't like it, but I will defend Jack. Jack is one of my favorite broadcasters because I love Homer broadcasters. I adore Homer broadcasters. I really do. Jack took it to a whole new level. Like somehow everything became a part of or winked at, like either the Civil War or the Boston Tea Party, or like he would be bringing in examples from American history all the time during these scraps. Now I loved it. I thought it was great, but I always looked at those moments and said like, okay, like that's part of the show to me. Things like that. I know you're talking about another human being and it sucks. But I will defend Jack that at that point he's part of the show, and he's trying to position the us and them and trying to big up his own guy at the expense of the other team.
Yeah.
See, I always thought that it made a lot more sense. Like I only did play-by-play a few times, mainly for American League games when I was at CBC, and I remember thinking like whenever I'd like try to position like two guys that were gonna scrap, I always thought that it was better if you talked about how tough each one of them was, because then if someone wins the fight, it actually means more than if you just beat someone up. It's like, oh, this is going to be like 2-punch and slip on a banana peel and the fight's over. That it never really made sense to me to position one as like overwhelmingly tougher than the other. And at the end of the day, too, it's like a hockey fight. You want to on a 1/8 inch blade of steel throwing fists. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yep. Yep.
Fights are weird.
Yeah. Look, I get it. The Jack Edwards stuff. I think he did his job very well for Bruins fans.
I love them.
I was the point of
I'm not saying he didn't have
despising him
enemies
so much,
I know.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I wanted the Leafs to beat Boston for more than just the Leafs beating Boston at the end. Like, this is going to be the thing that I say that just makes me a bad person, but it is what it is. I wanted them to beat beat the Bruins so that Jack Edwards would go out having to have lost to the Maple Leafs in his, like, final calls. And that was, like, my point. I was like, get this guy out of here with a Leafs playoff series win. No. It ended up not being the case, but I was just so anti Jack Edwards at that point.
General soreness. I hate Jack Edwards announcing the way Jeff Merrick hates the hockey song. Bless you, GS. Kim Banks. Fights are weird. Yes, they are, Kimmy. Yes, they are. Okay. Well, we got games tonight. Let's get there. We got games tonight. Not as many as last night, but nonetheless, we have games tonight. And we want to remind you, as always, FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. North America's #1 sportsbook app provider, our friends, our partners, FanDuel. And coming up today, let me blaze through these games here because there's something that you wanted to point out as well. And we'll get here in a second. Montreal faces off against Ottawa. I'm really glad both these teams are in the playoffs. I know with Montreal, like we're right there. I'm really, really happy that we're going to see this. Tampa Bay faces off against the Detroit Red Wings. Pittsburgh takes on New Jersey, the Prudential Center. San Jose versus the Edmonton, how many players can we dress tonight? Oilers. The Minnesota Wild, Calgary Flames. Like Minnesota, like this is the season. Like the tragic number is 3. Like. Calgary still has a mathematical chance, and if they have anything, like this is it. This is the empty the tank game for the Calgary Flames. Dustin Wolf gets a start there again. This is the one the Calgary Flames have to keep any flicker of hope alive. But you wanted to talk about something else.
Yeah, I was really interested in the awards conversation that you and Wish had, and the Hellebuck stuff keeps coming up about could he win, does he deserve to win, etc. And I was looking at the FanDuel odds, which we talked about yesterday, and then they get a 4-0 win last night. He gets the shutout. I take a look at FanDuel today, Jeff, and he's the leader on FanDuel to win the Hart Trophy now.
From
so
blanking the Stars?
Yeah, from blanking Dallas and odds board courtesy of FanDuel. Hellebuck yesterday was plus 140. Draisaitl was minus 180. Obviously, there Kucherov and McKinnon were the next ones. But now today, after a shutout, minus 125 for Hellebuck, the leader, and Draisaitl minus 105. I just thought it was interesting, like, the flip there. Last night obviously was an important game, but how much recency bias? Okay, that's maybe the wrong way to put it because it's a full body of work throughout the entire season. But to
Hellebuck's
go
been great.
one game with a shutout where it flips like that's a big swing in the
but
odds.
that's their
Minus
biggest
180 for Draisaitl to that.
But isn't that their biggest game, maybe of the year? Last night
So
against
then let me
Dallas,
ask
because
you,
that
on the other side-
like Dallas is not finishing, like they wrapped up first place.
Yes.
That was their Dallas, and it was statement by the Winnipeg Jets. That was their biggest game of the year,
I know. So
and there in the middle of it is Kyle Connor, and as someone from another team who shall remain nameless reminded me yesterday watching that game, something along the lines of, I grabbed the text, something along the lines of, there's Kyle Connor again doing Kyle Connor things. Remember when he was scratched for Matthew Tkachuk, who couldn't play at the Four Nations? I'm like, yes, I do. I think we all do.
yeah.
It's an American team, by the way.
So the thing that makes this more important or more interesting to me, Jeff, is do you know who plays against each other on Sunday?
You want me to cheat and get the sked?
It's the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets.
Winnipeg Jets and
play
Oilers,
each other.
Yep.
If Draisaitl scores, let's say he comes back and he scores 3 goals. You get where I'm going? Like, what is he flip flop?
Here's what I think the point. Here's what I think the point is. It is like the margin is like so razor thin between like Hellebuck and Draisaitl and McKinnon and Kucherov. Again, I'll throw Ovechkin in there. I don't know how he's not part of the conversation, but here we are. I think that's more indicative of this is so razor thin. Like, let me ask you this. So, Tampa's playing. What has Tampa got here? Tampa's got Detroit. Okay? Tampa's got Detroit. What if Kucherov goes off for 5 points and then gets like another 5 points against what they got here? Buffalo. Like, McKinnon's shut down. All of a sudden, like, what if Kucherov just like lays waste? All of a sudden, where does he go in the next couple of games in that discussion?
Yeah. What if they win the Atlantic too? What if he does that? They go 4-0. I think they have 4 games left. 4-0. He puts up an outrageous amount of points over the next stretch. Like, these are the ones when it gets so interesting because Kucherov, I think, the odds shouldn't be where he's at right now. And I'm watching Draisaitl and Hellebuck flip back and forth, and Kucherov bumps down to plus 5,500. They're watching it. It's like, okay, he's getting counted out a little bit. Some of the stuff so. I wonder. Like, McKinnon to me is out. He's not winning the Hart. That's out. The Kucherov is still alive in my mind. I don't know.
Okay, I want to show something here as we get off the air.
Yeah.
What's weirder? Do we have the visit the airport with Ivan Demidov?
No, I couldn't download that video.
Okay, so I think everybody has seen, like, if you're watching or listening to a show like this, you've seen the Habs fans at Pearson. Personally, I loved it. I thought it was great. You know, Tony threw out the video last night, the live cam, which was fantastic. Just love that. I thought it was great. Like, I know there's a lot of people like tut-tutting it online, like, oh, come on, people, this is ridiculous. No, it's not really. These are hockey fans that love their team, and here comes this like potential superstar as your team is going to the playoffs. Like, I think it's fantastic. Did the kid feel overwhelmed? Yeah, probably, but you're going to Montreal. Like, it's not going to get any better. Like, that's what it's going to be like. Like, everyone's in love with you right now. Everyone's excited about you. I thought that was fantastic. And then this other video popped up online today on Instagram, and Amel, our boss. I like to call Amel our boss. Our boss, Amel Delich, sent me this video that popped up. You want to fire this one off? You're a Leaf lover. Let's fire this video off. This one hits you where you live, Zach Phillips. Watch this.
Yes.
So we're here at Park Lawn Cemetery. You guys are going to think I'm a little fucked up, but we brought the Stanley Cup to Harold Ballard's grave. This is his actual grave. And we're going to perform a little ritual here to lift the Harold Ballard curse.
So good. So April 20th, 1990 was my first day working at that cemetery. That's Park Lawn. That is in section AA. It's right at the corner of Prince Edward and Bloor. I know that cemetery like the back of my hand. Also, for those of you that collect macabre hockey history, Conn Smythe is buried at Park Lawn Cemetery. I would see his stone every day, and we'd always take care of the Ballard stone. But on my first day, I helped, whose hair is better today, you jerk, on our poll, help bury Harold Ballard, and then would take care of the grave. And I'd always go by there, and I would always make the joke to every single Leafs fan that, Zach, everybody complained about Harold Ballard, but only one person did something about it.
That's good. That's good.
You like that one? Is that better than 8-1?
Yeah, I like that.
Is that better than 8-1?
Better than 8-1. Yeah.
Everybody complained about the old man, but only one person did something about it.
Yeah, I like that one.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I spent a lot of summers working at Park Lawn. Loved it. Wendy Enright was my boss. She was a huge hockey fan too.
So when you were there that day, this is a serious question. Was it like
Zoo? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I
like a
remember because
celebrity being buried, kind of.
our foreman, like, don't forget too, like, Yolanda, his wife, there was, I believe it was a family injunction against her, so she couldn't be within, was it like 50 meters or 100 meters of Ballard property. And at that point, I don't know where ownership is now, I think the Ballards owned 50% of Park Lawn Cemetery. Rob Ford's buried there now too, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
You want to hear a weird cemetery story? I got a million of them. One day we'll do a show on cemetery stories. One of the most interesting funerals I was ever at Park Lawn when I was working there. It was a horrible, horrible story. This woman was on the back of her husband's motorcycle and fell off and died. Now, her husband was part of a motorcycle club, which shall remain nameless. But her family, like, dad was like a major executive for a major grocery chain. So it was a combination of like really expensive cars and Harley Davidsons. Right? And I remember there's like 100 Harley Davidsons, and it sounded like it was a beautiful like July afternoon, and it sounded like thunder was rolling through, but it's all these Harleys coming in at the same time. So had the funeral, and we were in the shed, and a couple of the bikers came in, and they had a case of beer, and we were all around the lunchroom table, and the bikers came in and said, "Hey guys," and they put the box of beer down on our table, and said, "Give us the shovels." And we were like, "What?" They go, "The beer's for you. Stay here. Give us your shovels. We bury our own. Don't be offended by it, but we don't let anyone throw dirt on the coffin of any of ours." And I really, really liked
That's
that.
weird.
I really liked it. I was like, you know what? Respect. We bury our own. Here's a box of beer, guys. Enjoy. We bury our own.
It's very like mafia mob.
100%.
Yeah.
There was speaking of which, there was a cop funeral there once, and my foreman Keith said, "Hey, go look at the big wreath there. It was the day before." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's massive. Like, this must have cost like hundreds and hundreds of dollars." He goes, "Go look at the card." I'm like, "There isn't a card." He goes, "Yep, that's right." Come on, Zach. Big, huge wreath, cop funeral, no card. West end of the city. I'll explain it to you after the show, young man. But the shot's 8-1. Let's go. Yeah, all right. Thanks to Berkey for stopping by. Thanks for your patience. I know we've gone overboard and overtime in a lot of the shows this week. My fault. I'll fall on the knife for that one. Been wordy this week. On a somber note, condolences once again to the friends and the family of Greg Millen and Ray Shiro and Mark LaForest as well. It's been an awful week. Hopefully you can have a laugh this weekend and enjoy some hockey. The program returns on Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern. Don't forget Monday as well. Morning Cup of Hockey, 9 o'clock Eastern. Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohen, who should be back and maybe even sober. From the Frozen Four on the weekend. Good luck to Western Michigan. Good luck to Boston University. And whatever happens afterwards with players going their separate ways. Enjoy your hockey this weekend. We're back on Monday. Playoff time is right around the corner. We got some good stuff planned for you. So hopefully you can stick with us here, whether it's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Thanks again to Brian Burke here every Friday here on the program. For Civilian Fridays, as some of you like to call it, or just call it Hey Berkey or Berkey Fridays or whatever. On behalf of our producer, Zach, Merrick signing off. We'll talk to you Monday. Have a great weekend. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.